Hello and welcome to another lecture. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about .NET remoting technology and how we can use it in remote desktop capture. There are three solutions for remote desktop capture, as we have seen before in the previous lesson. The first one is standalone desktop capture. This we have already completed. Now we are going to the second one, which is direct connection remote desktop capture. So in direct connection remote desktop capture, the attacker initiates the connection to the victim's PC and requests the desktop capture. The victim PC then captures the desktop image and sends to the attacker, and the attacker displays in picture box on the user interface. So let's take a look at how we can use .NET remoting technology to implement the second solution. This is a typical architecture of direct connection remote desktop capture. In this kind of architecture, the attacker will connect to the victim's computer using the low-level API. APIs are functions, and in this case, the functions come from Microsoft API. Microsoft collection of functions, we call it Microsoft API. And these API are for networking. So you can see, before communication can happen, you need to go through many different stages. Many different functions need to be used. We need to have a listening socket, a listening port, and then there needs to be an acceptance of a connection request, and then there's also a connection initiation from the client, and then the victim as well as the attacker computer need to be constantly reading streams and writing streams, and then there also need to be sockets being created, and must be a message loop, and we need to have threads so that it will not block the user interface, and so on and so forth. And all these we have to manage this. We have to manage this so that we can ensure that data is sent correctly and completely without any missing data between the client and the server. So if we use the traditional way of socket programming, this is called socket programming, which we have been doing all this while, then to do a remote desktop capture, we will find that our code could become quite complex very quickly. So the problem with the traditional socket programming is that it is too low level. It becomes too complex very fast because we have to manage every single thing. And also that will cause too many lines of code. We need to handle the listening, the connecting, the accepting, the reading, the writing, the sockets, the loops, and ensuring that the data is completely received and completely sent without anything missing, and so on and so forth. There is a solution, and that solution is to use a .NET remoting technology. Now, among all the technology that exists today, this is one of the older technologies in the Microsoft API for communication. And there are other newer technologies which has superseded this one. But among all of them, this is the easiest to do, and this is the easiest to understand for beginners. And it's also the easiest of all to implement. That is why I would still recommend we use this technology, even though there are newer technologies out there. So this technology is still working, still supported, and works like a charm. So let's see how it works. So in this case here, in order to make it easy to send data and receive data and so on and so forth, we do not want to concern ourselves with the low-level network programming. So how do we solve that? Easy. We use .NET remoting technology, and in this diagram here you can see that all the low-level network protocols, network communication is separated into another DLL called the interface DLL. The interface DLL will take care of the network communication so that we don't have to worry about listening, connecting, sending, checking whether data has been completely received and looping and so on and so forth. We can focus instead on the logic of the program. So in this case here, you can see, if let's say we want to write a ret that can perform these three functions: hello method, goodbye method, gateway map. So if the attacker wants to call this hello method, the attacker can easily do it by directly calling it like this: interface.hello. The hello method resides on the server, the victim's computer, and the attacker simply has to call interface.hello method, and magically the interface DLL will take care of that for you. Send the command across the network, open the connection, ensuring the data is completely sent, doing the reading and writing and so on and everything, and magically the hello method gets executed locally on the attacker's client computer as though the attacker was running this locally. So the attacker client program, it will seem to the attacker client program that this method is a local method. That is the power of remoting. So the attacker client machine do not have to worry about the network communication protocols and so on. So the victim's computer will implement all the method and expose these methods to the whole world, in other words to the client computer, using the interface DLL. And the same interface DLL will also reside on the attacker's client computer. So you have interface DLL on the attacker's client computer. You will have the same interface DLL on the victim's computer, and interface DLL will take care of the communications. So you just focus on what you want to do with your ret. That's it. So easy and so efficient. So this interface DLL is different for every project. So you need to write your own interface DLL, but it's very easy to do, as I will show you in the practical walkthrough. So all you have to do is import the necessary libraries from C#, and then you can just create an interface DLL very quickly. So what are the advantages of .NET remoting? First, it hides socket programming code so that you can just focus on the logic of your ret. It makes it look like a client and server is communicating on the same machine. And the important thing is you no need to worry about binding, accepting, listening, connecting, sending, receiving, reading stream, writing stream sockets, and so on and so forth. So the .NET remoting is a communication protocol that allows one program to call a function from a program located in another computer on a network without having to understand the network's details. It is used to call other functions on the remote systems like a local system. So these are the powerful advantages of .NET remoting, which will simplify your ret development tremendously. So that's all for this conceptual lecture on how we can leverage the power of .NET remoting to do our remote desktop capture. So I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.